And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to now look at another example of a Keynesian response in the economy. So we're going to say the role of government is going to be that the government does respond. The government's going to respond to changes in the economy, and we're going to use our full model, long-run aggregate supply, aggregate demand, and short-run aggregate supply to talk about this. So I'm going to go back and do the same real-world event that I did on the previous video, and that is my real-world event is going to be an significant increase in the price of oil. So I'm going to go through this pretty fast because this is similar to what we just did on the previous video. So if you get an increase in the price of oil, then that's going to increase the cost of doing business, and that's going to cause the short-run aggregate supply curve to shift in to the right to SRAS2. So my determinant is going to be negative supply shock. It's going to be a negative supply shock. Short and aggregate supply curve shifts into the left. Short and aggregate supply curve shifts into the left. My story here is going to be negative supply shock. We said that. Negative supply shock. It's a negative supply shock. Short and aggregate supply curve shifts into the left, and as companies begin producing fewer goods and services, that means there's fewer goods and services available, which means prices are going to rise. As prices rise, then we're going to move along the aggregate demand curve. We're going to move along that aggregate demand curve as we get an increase in prices. Let's do the wealth effect this time. If we get an increase in prices, we could do the wealth effect, the international trade effect, the interest rate effect. Let's just do the wealth effect. Higher prices means that my real wealth is going to go down, and that means that for example, consumption is going to go down, moving us along that aggregate demand curve, So what happens then as a result? What happens as a result is that we get an increase in prices, we get a decrease in GDP. I don't think I labeled that here. Let me just label that. The gross domestic product is going to decrease, and unemployment is going to rise. And then we said, of course, this is your stagnation problem, so that's still there. Stagnation is there. That's a problem. And then if we were going to do this from the classical point of view, then we would focus on this increase in unemployment and how that would cause the economy to self-adjust. But we're not going to do that now because we're going to be Keynesians for a moment. We're going to have the government respond. And this was the problem that the Keynesians faced in the 1970s when we had these negative supply shocks and the price of oil shot up and the aggregate supply curve shifted to the left and we suffered from stagnation. Is the Keynesian answer always is when you're going into a recession, the Keynesian answer is, oh, well, if you're in a recession, then expansionary fiscal policy. You start to increase government spending and cut taxes. So you would have expansionary fiscal policy. We're going to use the government to solve this problem. Expansionary fiscal policy. And so you're going to change government spending, and you're going to change consumption through the tax system, and you're going to do this specifically by, in this case, increase government spending and cut taxes. That should be cut taxes in order to increase consumption. And both of those things will cause the aggregate demand curve to shift to the right. The aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. So my aggregate demand story would look like this. It would be that there's an increase in government spending, and there's a decrease in taxes, which will cause an increase in consumption. And all that means that the aggregate demand curve is now going to shift to the right. The aggregate demand curve is going to shift to the right. And this is helpful with regards to the gross domestic product because the GDP now is going to increase as the aggregate demand shifts to the right. But it creates some other problems because as the government starts spending more money, as consumers start buying more stuff, then that's going to cause prices to get bid up even higher. That's going to cause prices to get bid up even higher. And as prices get bid up higher, okay, now we have this. Now we have the sticky wages. The real wages are equal to the nominal wages over the price level, and the price level is going to go up even higher. Meanwhile, nominal wages are sticky, so that means real wages are going to decline. And as real wages decline, then that means the companies are going to increase hiring, and that means the companies are going to increase production. So there's the increase in the production right there. That's true. That's great. So we are going to get an increase in GDP, which is going to help put downward pressure on unemployment. But the problem is that it comes with a real cost, which is even higher inflation. So prices are going to continue to rise. So we really didn't fully fix this problem in a satisfactory way, and that's part of the problem that the Keynesians are going to face in the 1970s, and that causes some people to begin to question the Keynesian model, this kind of Keynesian view of the world, and I think to some extent is going to lead to a revival of some of the old classical ideas. Okay, so we've now talked about if the short and aggregate supply curve shifts. What if government does nothing? Then the short and aggregate supply curve will just shift back on its own. On the other hand, if the short and aggregate supply curve shifts and then the government responds and shifts aggregate demand, then we'll end up with higher prices. Okay, this has been another podcast with Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me, and hope to see you on the next podcast.